Welcome gamers! Today we're going to take a look at Fighters Impact A. This was a classic arcade fighting game, developed by Polygon Magic and published to arcades in Japan by Taito back in 1996. So the game ran on Taito's FX1B arcade hardware, and the characters featured numerous martial arts-based fighting styles, including Kung Fu, traditional karate, and Akido. Likewise, there were other non-martial arts-based fighting styles that were also prevalent in the game as well, including street fighting and wrestling, at least for a few of the characters anyways. So players could typically choose among three various fighting styles for each individual character in the game, with the one exception being Yukio, this character shown here. I don't know why, but he only has one fighting style. And so, upon playing this, it really doesn't take long to figure out that the game was created to compete alongside other popular fighting titles of the same era, especially Sega's Virtua Fighter series. Fighters Impact boasted similar polygon-based graphics as seen in Sega's Virtua Fighter titles. So it's very, very similar. You can see the graphics really do look a lot the same. The fighting styles are much the same. Now, the one thing to note is that the game never saw a traditional North American release in arcades, but there was a US console port for the original Sony PlayStation console, and it was called Versus. That was it. That was the whole name. It was this game revamped with a bunch of new characters and a bunch of new play features, a bunch of game modes, and that was published a year later in 1997 by THQ. So it had a totally different publisher. Taito published the arcade version on their hardware, and THQ was the one that published it for consoles. So it was also published to the European market on the PS1 there as well in 1998. And so the original character designs were created by Tetsuyaru Shinkata, I hope I pronounced his name right, I don't know, for the arcade version. And the PS1 port's characters were designed by Marvel Comics artist Curtis Fujita. And so that's kind of strange, you know, they had two different people to design the characters, two different artists for this game overall. Now, while the arcade version had just 13 characters, the PlayStation port boasted I think 20 characters in total, many with the intent to relate more to a North American audience, but while also retaining the game's original anime style and theme. And so here we actually featured two characters for this video. The first being Yukio. He's kind of this bizarre looking mutant creature with a long beak, who boasts long legs and arms, giving him the advantage of reach. And the other character, which you're going to see here in just a minute, is just named Mark. And he's like a biker dude that follows, I guess, more of a traditional street fighting style as compared to many of the other characters in this game. And so I read a bunch of reviews for this game. I wanted to see what people had to say about it. This did not take off in America the way that it did in Japan. It did pretty well there. The game really didn't do that great on consoles North American market, and I think they just scrapped it from that point. So the games were, you know, the game reviews were all over the board. They ranged from being spectacular to mediocre to just being downright awful. And I have my own opinions about the game. The game did fit well the classic fighting genre, in my opinion, of the, you know, the classic arcade fighting genre of the 90s. You know, pitting Fighters Impact alongside other titles like Virtua Fighter, Namco's Soul Edge, Soul Calibur series, or even the Dead or Alive series. That was another classic series that was developed by Sega, and I think originally was developed by Team Ninja. And just as with other competing fighting games in the 90s, Fighters Impact certainly lacked, in my opinion, in terms of fighting maneuvers overall. The game would have been a lot more polished and if they had included a few additional fighting maneuvers. along with more special attacks for each of the game's characters. So that's where it kind of fell short in my opinion, but to be honest, Virtua Fighter was the same way. This just had a 3-button layout for the original arcade version. I have not played the console version in a long time. I have played it before. I think that used more than 3 buttons. I don't think there was a block button. I don't know, but it had a lot more characters. It was a lot more intuitive than this. It was a pretty decent game, but the graphics were horrible on the PS1. I thought the graphics were pretty good in this game. You know, I really do for the time. And this is probably, to be honest, I actually thought this was a better game than the original Virtua Fighter. The original Virtua Fighter was kind of pale in comparison. You do have long chain combo attacks in here. You don't have a lot of you don't have a lot of special attacks. Each character has pretty much 1 or 2 max. But this was fun. I had a lot of fun playing this game. You know, I definitely would have shoved quarters, you know, for this in the arcades, no doubt about it. But this was a Japan-only release for the arcades, and like I said, it just didn't make it to North America. So a lot of fun to play. Here's the other character in the game, Mark. He's just kind of, I don't know. He's supposed to be like a biker, and you can see they were really trying to appeal to the North American market. So we're gonna play as him now. We're gonna check him out. He's just kind of like this biker dude. He's just more punches and kicks. He's not like doesn't have any real martial arts maneuvers other than that back kick. I thought he was easier to play with than some of the other characters in this game. You can see I just pulled off his special maneuver. He pulls his fist way back and it turns into like a fireball, and he just nails him. And his grapple attack there, you can see he puts him in a headlock and he just starts pummeling them. So I really do like this character. Another thing to note about this game, the characters are not very well balanced in my opinion. There was a few characters that I thought looked really cool, but like this Shinoa guy right here, I really did not care to play as him. I just felt like I was getting too much lag. There was like too much input lag with him. And maybe because of emulation, it may just be because of the way the game was programmed. It's really, really hard to tell. I don't have a definitive answer on that. That's another thing to note too. You can fall out of the ring in this game, just like with many other fighting games. That was pretty much a signature feature of Namco's Soul Calibur, Soul Edge series. You could fall out of the ring on just about every map, so that was kind of interesting in here. Now, if you fall out and the other character already dies, then you still win the match. And if you knock the character out and you fall out right afterwards, you're safe. You still win the match in this game. So that was pretty interesting.
Ready?
This game gets progressively difficult. Oh wow, he just totally stunned my special maneuver there. It does get progressively difficult. You get a few matches in this game and it gets really, really tough. And that just on normal mode, it's hard. Not too difficult. Once you get the combos down, you know, it's really just, you really have to just basically, you have like a taunt maneuver, like one key is a taunt, and it does like a light attack, and then you have your kicks and your punches. And the control scheme is just like every other fighting game. I mean, it's all, you know, it's pretty much the same, similar to Street Fighter, you know, down and forward, down and back, forward, you know, back and forward, forward, back, just really basic fighting maneuvers. But there is some input lag with some of the, you know, in between hits, it feels like you lose control for a second here or there, and that can kind of slow you down. Very blocky, like I said, this was the 1990s. These games were the state of the art at the time. This would be considered, you know, to be a very exceptional fighting game back in the late 90s. But today, by all means, is you know, this is far outdated. But definitely holds a place in history, you know, and you know, you have to honor these guys for, you know, competing with the Virtua Fighter series. That was the one that blew up. Virtua Fighter was huge. You know, they came out. They had Sega had Virtua Racing, Virtua Cop. I mean, all the Virtua games for Sega just blew up in North America. But games like this just didn't. For whatever reason, I don't know why. I think it would have actually probably done pretty good in the arcades if they had actually decided to release it here. The console port, that was just bad. I mean, it had a lot more features, but it was bad just because it just was not. The graphics were really not great, and I thought it was really laggy. This was just had pretty good frame rates. You can see I'm actually running this at 60 frames per second, so it's pretty crystal clear. You know, the stages in this game, they didn't look all that exciting. The backgrounds weren't great for some of the stages. This one looks kind of plain boring. You see that they have some scrolling, like some parallax scrolling going on in the background. Overall, I'll rate this game to be, it was a lot of fun. I would actually give it probably like a 7 out of 10. You know, I thought it was a really good fighting game. There's a little bit of input lag, and the characters don't really feel balanced. They could have been, you know, added a little bit more artwork to the background, and maybe done a little bit better presentation of the characters. But overall, I thought this was a really great game. It actually is probably better than the original Virtua Fighter, in my opinion. So anyways, that is Fighters Impact A, or better known in North America as just simply Fighters Impact. So anyways, if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with our future videos. And until next time, take care.